Today I am going to take the unit number 37, which is entitled Basics of the Internet, which is part of the course 6, Information Technology, Applications in Library and Information Science. As a Master's of Library and Information Science student, you would be in a position to understand the various factors that govern the Internet until now and where it is today. And I believe this unit on the basics of the Internet will equip you to understand the evolution and the role of the Internet in people's lives and how the technology has revolutionized the way information is shared, businesses are conducted, and lives of the people are impacted. In your MLASC program, you'll be able to learn how to manage a library by the provision of Internet services to your users that would impact their lives and livelihoods. Let us get into the course. As you may see, I have divided the course into the learning outcomes and also certain key learnings that you would obtain from this unit. And I will summarize at the end and we'll also conclude. As you would know, each unit would have 5 set of MCQs which you would need to complete, and also a kind of a short assignment that you may have to go through. At the end, there is a kind of a brief bibliography and references provided to you, which you may want to look into so that you can learn more about this topic beyond what I am going to guide you with. Now, the outline of the entire unit is as follows. I'd be introducing the concept of the Internet. I'll also briefly touch upon the history of the Internet and how the Internet functions today and what are the uses of the Internet, especially in a library and information setup. And we'll also wind up with looking into the merits and demerits of the Internet at the end. So, after you complete this course, you will be able to understand the history and the functioning of the Internet. You'll be able to highlight the various forms and uses of the Internet, and you'll also be able to discuss the merits and demerits of the Internet in your own life experience. As an MLASC student, you would need to know the basics of IT and its applications in LAS. As you are aware, network and networking is a component of IT, and this unit shall help you to understand and learn more on the fundamentals of one of the major networks we see today in our modern world, which is the Internet. First, let's look at what is a network. Now, network is a set of computers that are interconnected. These computers share information with each other. So, you can understand that a network is a set of many computers that are interconnected. While they can share information with each other, they can also work independently. So, a computer network is one where computers are connected through a communication link, and as a result, the computers connected to the network transmit all sorts of data across the network. When I say all sorts of data, it could be tables, it could be visuals, it could be audio visuals, it could be a video, it could be plain text. So major network technologies are designed to devise the connection of computers. Now, in an organization, you may see multiple departments and the employees are connected to one another through a network, which means here the organization would want to basically enable the employees to share their information with one another, and this means you need to have a right hardware technology suitable for the communication purposes, and also it should suit your budget. Some applications when you run on your computer would need high-speed networks to connect computers within a building or within a floor where you operate. But there are also inexpensive technologies that satisfy the requirement, so that you are able to also use low speed network to connect your machines. So basically there are three types of networks. You may have heard local area network, LAN, metropolitan area network, MAN, and wide area network, which is largely operates across cities and across geographies. The metropolitan area network need not be related to a metropolitan city. Even if it is a campus would have many buildings, and if you are connecting the various computers in various buildings within the campus, that could be called a metropolitan area network, MAN. Now let's look at what is the internet. The term internet is a short form of internetworking. It is actually a group of several networks such as LAN, MAN, WAN, connected to each other through appropriate hardware, software to work in a very persistent manner. And usually internet functions by employing what they call the TCP IP protocol suite and IP as the addressing protocol. So through TCP IP and IP, internet communication has become a crucial part of our lives. And the World Wide Web carries information related to various distinct fields on the internet, rights on the internet, so that we are able to access information through the web. And the internet is an enormous amount of information, as you would know. So in the above definition, you could very categorically understand that a network is a connection of computers, whereas the internet is a combination of a network of networks, if you like. So if there is a network called LAN, it's a network called MAN or a WAN. When these are connected to each other, then it becomes a kind of an internet. So in other words, internet has come up with a technology which interconnects several individually separated physical networks and make them as a coordinated unit. So internet could be interconnection of heterogeneous networks constructed through multiple diverse fundamental hardware technologies, and it allows us basically to access and transfer and share with each other emails, files, remote logging, and all sorts of things. Now, if you were to look at the difference between the network and the internet, you could maybe simplify the whole thing in the following. When two or more computers or devices are connected with each other, this could be called a network. And the purpose of this connection is to basically exchange data and information. On the other hand, internet is a group of networks or a network of networks connected with each other. Now, a network can cover a limited amount of area, while the internet can be dispersed all over the world. A simple network connecting 4 or 5 devices can be inexpensive, but the internet needs internet working devices which are usually costly. So in conclusion, the difference between the internet and the network, I could sum up as that the network and the internet are actually lie in the same plane, but the network is said to be owned by a same group, some group or an organization or community, whereas the internet is open to all users, which is not privately owned. Now let's go into the World Wide Web, the concept of a World Wide Web, which is commonly known as the web. Now that is the leading informational networking and retrieval system invented by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who gave the web for free to the entire world. What he did, he basically allowed everyone to access a huge array of documents that are connected to each other by means of what he called the hypertext hypermedia links. And today we use hypertext links to basically connect one document with another, one system with another. So this is a kind of an electronic connections link that he had provided way back in 1989. So the hypertext allows the users to pick a word which is linked to another document which may be lying elsewhere, Thus, as a web, you go from one node to another and one text to another through the hypertext link. So that's the concept of the World Wide Web. When it comes to the difference between the Internet and the World Wide Web, you could perhaps look into this in the following. As mentioned, Internet is a global network of networks, whereas www is the World Wide Web. Internet would mean you are connecting a computer to another computer anywhere in the world, whereas World Wide Web is a collection of information which is accessed via the Internet. In other words, you could call Internet as the infrastructure and web as a service on top of that infrastructure. And Internet can be, say, viewed as a big kitchen, but the collection of ingredients that are there in the kitchen, which could be accessed and put together and cooked, can be seen as the web. At an advanced level, we understand the concept of Internet as a hardware, whereas to some level, we can understand the concept of web as a software. So, in other words, Internet is the hardware-based kind of a pipe, whereas the web is software-based, where through the pipe the water flows. So that's the idea of the web. And the Internet originated way back in 1960s, whereas the web was invented, as I mentioned, by Tim Berners-Lee in 1989. So basically, the Internet is the superset of the World Wide Web, and the World Wide Web is a subset of the Internet. The first version of the Internet was known as ARPANET, whereas the World Wide Web began at CERN laboratories where Sir Tim worked. And as you would know, Internet uses IP addresses, whereas the web uses the HTTP protocol. In conclusion, I can say that the World Wide Web and the Internet both are very important today in the world for us. And the Internet is the global network that works as an infrastructure on which the web functions. Web cannot be accessed without the Internet. So although they are distinct from each other, they depend on each other. Now I would like to actually spend a very brief moment in running through the history of the Internet. As I mentioned earlier, Internet began in 1960s as ARPANET, as a US Department of Defense project to create a communication network within the defense establishments so that they can withstand a nuclear attack. That's how it all started off. But in 1969, the first message was sent between two computers, making the birth of the network communication. In 1969, the first message that was sent over the ARPANET between two computers were between UCLA and Stanford. And the message was supposed to be login, but the system crashed and it only showed LO, not LOGIN. But still, it transmitted the data and it gave birth to the Internet communication that time. And in 1960s, we saw the development of TCP/IP, the foundational protocol for data transmission, and the first email subsequently was sent in 1971, actually by Ray Tomlinson, who also introduced the idea of the @ symbol, which we normally use in an email, because an email is incomplete without that @ symbol, as you would know, which separates the user from the computer's name. So when you look at your email address, your name and @ symbol and the computer name or the network's name that's provided. That's how. And this was invented by Ray Tomlinson in 1971. And in 1980s, we saw the expansion of the Internet beyond the military and academic establishments with the introduction of what they call the domain name service system. In 1984, we started making it easier to navigate through the DNSs that we use. And from there, graduating to Internet to the web, in 1989, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist who was serving at CERN, actually created the first hypertext markup language, HTML, and he used HTTP as the protocol to basically communicate across the computers through hypertext links. So the web was invented by him, and you would have heard the first browser being Mosaic, followed by various other internet browsers and search engines that came about in the public domain. And Google, in fact, transformed our lives, in the 2000s by introducing the Google search engine, and the rise of e-commerce was seen ever since. And also in the 2000s, we saw the social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, mobile internet, iPhone, all these things come about. In 2010s, we saw the growth of cloud computing, where you don't have to now today store everything on your local system, but you can hire a cloud space and store all your data. And the cost of computing has become cheap. It's only that the internet were to function with good bandwidth. Now we also saw in 2010s the idea of Internet of Things, IoT, and today we are actually evolving into the artificial intelligence evolution, where quantum computing and AI and machine learning, all these phenomenon are shaping the future of global connectivity and innovation. Quantum computing is actually shaping the future of the connectivity domain and also the information sharing domain, whereas AI is bringing about a lot of innovation. Now, the history of the internet is very interesting. From 1960s to where we are today, we have seen an enormous growth, but it's all possible because of the internet. Now, the web functions riding on the internet, and we need to understand the functioning of the internet. What are the components of the internet? And here there are only two things that we need to be aware of: packets and protocols. In a networking idea, the data that is being transmitted through the internet is sent via small segment or small chunks, which are later translated into bits, and the packets get routed to the endpoint. So from where you send to the endpoint, the packets are sent in small chunks, and they are taken across the board through the networks, which are routers and switches, as we commonly call. Now, once the packets or the set of packets arrive at the receiver's end, those small chunks of data are reassembled so that this could be legitimately and in the natural language we can actually receive it and process it. So the small units are processed and put together and made available to us through a concept called packet switching. Now this is called the idea of the packet, but protocols are the standardized way of formatting data so that any computer can interpret data. So the moment the packets move in bits, these are basically through the standardized way formatted and sent, so that the system that sends and the system that receives follow the protocol to make the best out of it. So the protocols have headers to the packets, and these are associated so that these are assembled together, so more and more packets can be transferred, and the transmission control protocol with the internet protocol, which we call TCP/IP, basically enables us to receive and decode code information that's sent across so that we are able to access. Now at this point in time, having learned what is a packet and a protocol, we need to also understand the various infrastructure that are available on the internet. We have already introduced the concept of TCP/IP, which is the internet protocol between the sender and the receiver. So in other words, transmission control protocol, internet protocol, ensures that all users who are connected to the internet have their own unique identity known as the IP address. However, the IP address is not enough for you to send your information across, so you need to follow the TCP, the transmission control protocol, which enables you to divide the whole message into small packets, and it's basically reassembled at the receiver's end before the receiver basically looks at the information or the transmitted data on his or her system. So that's TCP/IP. You should also be aware of another phenomenon, the concept called FTP, the file transfer protocol. It's actually used for communicating from one point to another over the LAN or a WAN or a MAN. File transfer protocol or FTP acts like a host, establishing connections between computers and transferring files so that these become seamless, and one connection is used for data connection and other for control connection. So the file transfer protocol enables you to transfer files seamlessly. There's also the third infrastructure that rides on the internet, which is the hypertext transfer protocol. So the base of the internet starts with HTTP. So if you would have seen most of the addresses, almost all the addresses start with HTTP. Some of the addresses start with FTP, and that is being used on the World Wide Web. The concept of HTTP is to provide data over the internet, whether it's image, video, text, or any form that is basically made available through the hypertext transfer protocol, which basically a concept that was introduced, as I mentioned, by Tim Berners-Lee, which enables us to connect a particular word or a link a particular word in a particular document to another document which could be elsewhere. So the HTTP protocol enables us to do that. Now we also need to be aware of other things like the Ethernet, which is a system that connects through the Ethernet cables of machines of the same network. We need to also be aware of some protocols that you want to really learn more about when you have the time, like UDP, the user diagram protocol, datagram protocol. The protocol, there are various protocols for testing, routing, inscriptions, streaming games and videos. So, typically these systems don't use the TCP protocol, they use their own different types of protocols. So, although you may not need to know a lot about these protocols, but you need to be aware of the idea of these protocols and why certain things are called the FTP, certain things are called the HTTP, and certain things are called the TCP/IP, and so on, and the differences between all these. Now, I want to now take you to the next level of basically looking at the uses of the internet. Now, when it comes to the uses of the internet, we know for sure that we have all used emails. Email is one of the prime form of the use of the internet. We've also done a lot of web chats in the years. There have been chat softwares. Even today, we are using a lot of chat software on the net, using our mobile devices and also computers and so on. So that's another primary use of the internet. We also have the World Wide Web, where we are connecting billions and billions of computers through hypertext protocols and hyperlinks to basically read from one document to another. We also see one of the major uses in recent years is e-commerce, where we have traded services and products on the net, be it Alibaba or Amazon or whichever that we may have used. We have also used internet telephony, from the usual telephony system to what they call the internet telephony, which is commonly used today. So the audio signals are also taken on board across the network through the internet to other systems. We have also used video conferencing of late, starting with Skype, and today Zoom is a major communication tool that we are using. So there are various uses of the internet that we are familiar with, which I'm sure many of us have used in the past. That said, as a library information science professional, you should also be aware of the advantages and the disadvantages of the internet. Now, we all learned in this unit that the internet is one of the major inventions of humankind in the modern world today, and actors such as the Internet Telecommunications Union and the various multi-stakeholder groups govern the internet today, and the web is run and governed by various companies and businesses, and there are predominant companies today that run the web. And the governments and academic institutions are also in the governance process. And as you would know, over 4.5 billion people all over the world on the planet are using the internet, primarily the World Wide Web and various other services that the internet offers for all of us today. Now let's look at the advantages and the disadvantages of the internet. What are the advantages? Now, we have already touched upon it. We are able to use the internet as a communication infrastructure. Of late, we have used Zoom. In the COVID times, we have used in emergency teaching, we have used a lot of these services, Skype and Zoom and Teams, Google, video services and others are very predominant today. So that's one of the major advantages today, that we are able to connect to the internet, make video calls, and even have conferences of 500 and more people participating in webinars and web events and conferences. The second major advantage of the internet is abundant of information. Once upon a time we were having the scarcity of information. Because of information scarcity, a lot of people were thriving in business. Today there is abundance and abundance of information, and the information is prevalent everywhere. Now the third major advantage of the internet could be also seen to be education. Now most of the educational content are available on the internet today, and we are able to seamlessly as students and learners work from home or wherever we are, online or even offline, study at our own comforts using various platforms that offer online education to students. We are able to gain knowledge in any type. We don't have to have a Britannia encyclopedia. We can go to the Wikipedia and today learn on any subject at any time on any topic. And we have actually seen the revolution, the democratic revolution of information on the internet. Now, another major area which a large number of people are using is entertainment. Internet enables us to connect entertainment through our smartphones, tablets, and also smart TVs today to access entertainment services, be it OTT platforms or even streaming of movies and others that we are able to do. We are also able to access a lot of online services, e-commerce services, trade systems, buy things, do online banking, online shopping, etc. Through the click of the mouse today. And we can shop for things in Asia, Africa, anywhere in the world today without actually moving out of our room or our desk. So that's one of the major advantages of the internet. Now, lastly, we've also seen the social network emerging. We are able to communicate, we are able to share our content, we are able to inform each other. Within a few seconds, we can actually live stream many things and we could be connected. And today, from a commercial world, internet banking and mobile money transactions have become very, very easy and possible today. So there are many advantages of the internet. But as a library and information professional, you would also like to be aware of the disadvantage of the internet. Now, one of the major things that we have seen in recent times is the internet addiction. Now, it actually affects the psychological state, and many people are suffering from some sort of an addiction that they cannot remain still without actually accessing their device or connecting. So this is a kind of a disorder that we see. We also see cybercrime. People are hacking computers, so people are phishing data, use personal information, and even steal your identity. There are so many other issues, cybercrime related issues are emerging. Now we are also seeing social alienation. Once upon a time we used to be playing as groups, but now even in a playground you see people with their individual devices alienating themselves from face-to-face communication to more of online communication. We have also seen a lot of spams emerge in recent years. The heavy use of internet also leads to bank account fraud, spams, internet fraud, and so on, identity theft and whatnot. And we have seen health issues, we have seen viruses, malwares, spy software, a lot of things emerge as also the dark side of the internet, notwithstanding the fact that the dark side of the internet also includes things like child pornography and sex trafficking and whatnot, which are all the disadvantages that we see today. So it's important for us as managers of library and information centers to be aware of both the advantages and the disadvantages of the internet, and thus ensure that we are able to guide our users to productive rather than unproductive or threatening means, so that we can avoid the demerits of the internet, only expose to our users the merits of the internet while making them aware of the demerits as well. Okay, in summary, let's sum up what we saw in this, what we learned in this unit. First, we learned about the difference between a network and the internet. We also touched upon the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. And we spent some time looking into the historical evolution of the internet from the 1960s to where we stand today, and particularly the watershed moment, what we call the 1989 World Wide Web evolution, given by Sir Tim Berners-Lee. We also looked at the major difference between the internet and the World Wide Web, and the major functioning of the internet. What is the infrastructure that's enabling internet to function? The TCP/IP to the FTP to the various protocols, including the hypertext transfer protocol and others. We learnt about it. We learnt about packets and protocols. We learnt about the various components of the internet and the various working principles of the internet. We also spent some time looking into the uses of the internet. And the major uses of the internet are starting with communication to accessing information to transacting services and goods and trade products on the internet through e-commerce, to accessing online banking, to the social media opportunities that we have to communicate with one another, and to enormous opportunities with regard to accessing government information, accessing educational information, and so on and so forth. Finally, we also looked into the advantages and the disadvantages of the internet, rather the merits and the demerits of the internet. Now, on the meritorious side, we see a large number of services that are available which were not available in the previous years for us to access today. When it comes to the disadvantages, we also looked into basically the issues like spams to identity thefts to digital arrests today, which you may have heard about, to internet frauds, to the dark side of the internet being the internet pornography, child pornography, sex trafficking, and so on. So, having learned the advantages and the disadvantages, in conclusion, we can say that the internet has dramatically changed the way that we communicate, conduct our business, and engage in social networking today. This was not possible a few decades ago. Today, we are in a connected world, we are in a wired world. But in conclusion, we also can sum up to say that the internet has both advantages and also disadvantages. It is therefore important for us to ensure our own judicious use of the internet with ethical and responsible practices, so that the humankind can benefit from this technology which has revolutionized the world. And also, as library and information professionals, I would encourage you to learn more about the basics of the internet, and also ensure that when you prepare your communities, your library users, everyone who comes up your library and information center, to basically be aware of the advantages and the disadvantage of the internet so that they can benefit rather than being affected negatively through the use of the internet. Thank you so much.